a different team. Throw my sleep time away. Yeah, it does feel like Formula One at this moment in time is just a quest into sleep deprivation. Couple of races into the season. Triple header coming up. I'm very excited about the triple header. 3 very, very good Grand Prix, in my opinion. But yeah, apparently this... Well, we might as well hide this chat. For now, just me. Oh, goodness. Feels a little bit much. Should we put the predictions up? They're awkward. They're very awkward indeed, are the predictions. Who had Lewis Hamilton as their struggle? That had not gone very well. YouTube is amazing. They have their ups and downs. But yeah, I wasn't expecting the fact that you can't have a live chat if YouTube as a whole has already hit its quota for the day. So we'll put the live chat up in sort of 20 minutes or so. Be ready for the start of the race. Resets at midnight Pacific time. But how are we doing? I can see your chat. That's what matters, isn't it? How are you? Sprint race showed how much tire management Lewis has. Yeah, that was the thing. The tires were the real kicker for me in terms of the sprint race. Like if we look at the result and how it kind of played out for everybody, like Lewis Hamilton was also on slightly older tires than some of the guys behind. But I think the clean air was a really key thing throughout the race. We saw that as soon as people were going into the dirty air of the car in front, they really were struggling to keep their tires within a working window. Like we saw that with Lando Norris throughout the entire thing. Stuck in 9th place and never really looked like he was going to be able to get past anybody ahead of them. Like, you know, we're saying to ourselves, well, the McLaren car is the quickest car, etc., etc. And Piastri did show at the end there that the McLaren does still have that ability to hold on to the tires, but Piastri had to drop back a little bit. Same with Lando Norris. Eventually, like he just cooked his tires in those first 10 laps and dropped really far back from Lance Stroll initially. Obviously managed to bounce back because of the tire management being better of the McLaren. Eventually got that position from Lance Stroll, but it wasn't an easy fight and nobody really stood out as like absolutely dominant pace. So I think this qualifying session, as much as it was important, I feel like the teams are going to see this as even more important now. Like this qualifying session now is sort of, okay, this actually needs to be done and we need to qualify where we want to start, which I know sounds really obvious, but in some tracks you can qualify, and if you're a couple of positions out, you're sort of like, okay, that doesn't matter. We'll be able to make up for it in the Grand Prix, which I feel like some of the drivers would have felt about China. China's not really too bad for overtaking a lot of the time, but this morning in the sprint race was really, really tough for anybody to get in front of where they wanted to be. Yeah, exactly. Blistered like that one time I boiled water on my hand. Interesting. But it was just so tricky for anybody to get their tires into the right window. So that's going to be the kind of name of the game again, really. It's getting those tires warmed up, getting enough grip on this track. Also, the track has been resurfaced. We know that that can sometimes cause the tires to act differently to how the teams are expecting them to because of the new tarmac and the new way that the tires are adapting to that. It was a very, very weird one. Is there any stream delay between Sky Sports F1 and the stream? Only whatever stream delay is is put in by YouTube naturally. Like I live stream at exactly the same time. Just whatever it is. Love the shorts videos. Thank you. Appreciate it. But yeah, I feel like this qualifying session now is going to be taken like even more seriously by the teams because they realize how difficult it is to actually get those overtakes done here in China. And we could be looking at a very, very steep sort of learning curve for a lot of these drivers when it comes to what it takes to qualify well and how you can qualify well. Be interesting to see how Antonelli gets on. He was sort of the pinnacle of why I think this qualifying session is going to be so important. Because he qualified well, was right in front of Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda then got him at the start. And even though Antonelli's pace was better than Tsunoda's, never an opportunity to overtake. Never really an opportunity to even have a lunge or sort of get out there. Just because those tyres, as soon as he was underneath the rear wing of Yuki Tsunoda, started to go off, started to drift away from him. And he's still learning, obviously, about his tyres a little bit more than some of the other drivers on the field. But even so, just the fact that Tsunoda was able to fend him off pretty easily in a car that isn't anywhere near as quick is pretty testament to how tough these tires are to get used to on this track. And also, it was a very good drive from Yuki Tsunoda. Don't want to take too much away from Yuki there. I think Yuki did a really good job at getting there. I predict an Isaac DNF. No, he was rattling through the field this morning. Sort of started a little bit out of position, but was overtaken like crazy. Had a good battle with Bortoleto and managed to get out on top. Then managed to sort of keep going. Ocon, Behrman was fighting with Gasly at one point. Did get ahead of Gasly for about a corner or two. And then Gasly came swooping back around at turn one. I think Isaac Hadjar had a really, really good sprint race. I think he knew he needed to bounce back a little bit. He put a little bit of pressure on himself almost, didn't he? Saying like last week wasn't what he wanted it to be. Was very upset. Doesn't want that to happen again. Came out swinging. Didn't qualify amazingly well for the sprint, but definitely had one of the better sprint races of the drivers that were out there. So hats off to Isaac Hadjar. I think had a really, really good sprint race. Heard that Helmut Marko praised Yuki for his performance. I mean, you can't not at this point. Like, it was a very, very good drive. A really good drive in Australia as well. Yuki Tsunoda started the season from the small sample set that we've got in incredible form. Like, he's doing really, really well. Was very unlucky not to score points when it came to Australia. Just got the strategy wrong. And, can you point at Yuki for that or the RB team for that? Probably a little bit of both. And then you have on the other side, sprint qualifying into the top 10, was sort of best of the rest. Then manages to jump a couple of positions, manages to get the better of Antonelli and Norris in the sprint race. Keeps it clean, tidy. 3 points on the board. Like, really, really solid from Yuki Tsunoda. I think both of the RBs were really, really swift, actually, in China. So I've opened my eyes a little bit to, okay, maybe RB are going to be a bit more in contention than we thought. Hello, not applicable. Hello, Richardson. However you say that. Apologies. Ooh, an F1 stream. It is indeed, Chloe. How are you doing? Checking in. We're still a few minutes out from the actual qualifying session itself. But we'll just get a couple of bits set up. Hopefully get this chat sorted. Williams will be back. I don't know. Albon had a pretty okay race, but was sort of overtaken by Fernando Alonso. Didn't really look like he was going to make any steps forwards. Was sort of middle of the pack. Carlos Sainz's tyres fell off an absolute cliff to the extent that Williams even pitted. Like, Williams pitted during a sprint race, which is really not what you want to do. The whole point of the sprint race is that they're supposed to have no real pit stops in them. So I don't think this is going to be Williams' weekend. I think Williams did incredibly well in Australia, especially Alex Albon. But Carlos Sainz had a good qualifying. shame about the race and sort of missing out on being part of it, really. Sort of crashed out before it had even properly got underway. But excellent Australia from Albon. I feel like this weekend might be a little bit tougher for them to score points. Just from the pace that they showed, not sure Alex Albon is going to be able to do back-to-back points. The tyres just didn't seem quite with it. Even in the hands of Alex Albon, wasn't going incredibly quickly. Like, never really looked like he was going to trouble anybody in front of him at that point. But tough weekend. Will Aston Martin make a comeback? Aston Martin, both of the cars in the top 10. Lance Stroll 9th, Alonso 10th in the sprint race. If they can do that again, obviously in the Grand Prix, that's 3 points on the board for them again. I can't see why not. I think Aston Martin are more in the mix than maybe even they expected them to be. They're kind of in that middle pack, definitely amongst the drivers that could do something. Stroll having a better start to the season than Alonso probably wasn't in many people's bingo cards, because Alonso spinning in Australia and then struggling to get to grips with things here in the sprint. Are we seeing the end of Fernando Alonso? It's a little bit too early to say. Obviously, there's going to be a season where Fernando Alonso's form finally does dip. Like, I know that he's been pretty exceptional since sort of basically 2001. When was it that he made his debut? Around then. It's been pretty much flawless in all of the seasons up to that. But there is eventually going to be a season. Not saying it's happening yet. Don't worry. Well, let's keep an eye on it. Let's see how Fernando Alonso develops throughout the season. But when Lance Stroll is outperforming him, I start to raise an eyebrow or two. That maybe something's not quite right. Do you think Alonso should retire? No, I think it's okay. I think the problem that I have with drivers sort of overstaying their welcome is, you know, we want to see young talent. Like, I'm much more excited about watching Gabriel Bortoleto or Isaac Hadjar or Ollie Behrman than drivers like I was last year watching Kevin Magnussen, say. I'm much more intrigued to see how Ollie Behrman gets on compared to Kevin Magnussen. I'm much more intrigued to see how Gabriel Bortoleto gets on compared to Valtteri Bottas. And that's not taking anything away from them, but I think every driver kind of hits their time limit in Formula One. And some people get an extra little bit, right? They get an extra double bit. And sometimes that extra little bit is like, could we have just got a younger driver in there to maybe see what they could do? But I understand why the teams do that, right? They're looking for a driver that is maybe a little bit more consistent, maybe has a little bit more understanding behind them and can help the team develop, as well as just sort of an interesting driver for us to watch and sort of look at as they go through. So according to my theory, your theory, drivers should be in a season for like 5 years. No, not at all. It depends how they progress. If a driver's still getting quicker and quicker and quicker, keep him in for as long as you can. But once they start to stagnate and once they start to fall backwards, you know, you see these drivers they're driving for a top team, then they fall back to a middling team, then they maybe get another 1-year contract at a team towards the back. And I feel like sometimes Formula One does hang on to drivers for a little bit longer than maybe they deserve. But again, there's so many factors to it. There's the sponsorships, there's understanding how Formula One works and the behind the scenes and being part of the team and having that cooperative relationship between the two. Like, I'm not just saying that pace is the only thing which gets you a seat in Formula One. But sometimes when the pace starts to fall away, I think fans lose a little bit of interest in those drivers that have been around for a long time and are kind of not quite doing that. Please respond. Where can I watch the match? I don't know if I've ever heard anyone refer to a Formula One race as the match. But you can watch it. Well, it depends where you live. You watch it on Sky in the UK. You can watch it on Formula One TV if you're in America or other places. Depends where you are, what you're doing. Do I think Lawson should be replaced? Absolutely not. Not yet. We've only seen 1.5 races, if you will. Like Australia and part of a race in a sprint. So Lawson, too early to, throw him under the bus already. I think he needs to improve. I think he's going to be under a lot of pressure. I think as soon as he stepped into that Red Bull seat, he knew that he was going to be under a lot of pressure to perform. You're going up against Max Verstappen. You're going into a team that has been slightly on the decline in the last sort of 9 months, 10 months. And you're going into a team where you're up against a driver who is the golden boy. You're going into a team. It's not like, you look at the other rookies on the grid. I suppose Antonelli has kind of got that. I think Antonelli would be having a tougher time if he was alongside Lewis Hamilton. I think going alongside George Russell, although Russell is now the clear number one and Mercedes have a lot of faith in him, he doesn't quite have the same rapport, I would say, or the same sort of aura as Lewis Hamilton or Max Verstappen. These drivers that have been there, done it, won championships, and are the kind of star pupil of their team, especially because Max Verstappen is still fairly young. Like Max Verstappen isn't, you look at the other world champions on the grid, Hamilton, Alonso, they're all a little bit older. You know what I mean? They're getting on a little bit. They're starting to sort of wind down towards the end of their careers. Max Verstappen, although he doesn't seem like he wants to because he talks about retiring all the time, Max Verstappen could be around for a very, very long time. And therefore, you're going into a really, really hard team. Colapinto will probably replace Lawson. Colapinto is at Alpine. So Colapinto is set to replace Jack Doohan of anybody. But I don't think Doohan's had too bad of a kind of start to his Formula One season. Obviously, the spin in Australia, not amazing. But before that, in qualifying in Australia, looked fairly decent. Was very, very close to getting into Q3 in Australia. And then Lewis Hamilton spun in front of him, caused that yellow flag, so he had to slow down. And then in sprint qualifying, was side by side with Pierre Gasly. And then at the end of the sprint race, kind of had that little bump. And it was like, oh. But even Gasly didn't have incredible pace in the sprint, finishing down the order a little bit. Gasly wasn't quite there. But we are headed into qualifying. And we've got about 5-10 minutes until we get underway. Let's get a couple of bits loaded up for myself, just so I can see the track map and the radios and various bits and pieces. Did just spin Bortoletto? Yeah, that's what I mean. It was a little bit out of character. I feel like they knew it was towards the end of the race. It wasn't like they caused a huge amount of damage to either car or anything. It wasn't like a huge spin. I think it was just a little bit of that rookie energy from both of them. They both went into the corner, both wanted to hold on. They knew that there wasn't really too much up for grabs either, though. So it was sort of half-hearted. It was an overtaking move. They went for it, but a little bit half-hearted. And it was just like, came to an end with a little bit of a spin. Colapinto is probably going to come back relentlessly. Just depends on replacing who. Yeah, Alpine clearly have an investment in Colapinto. Colapinto's got a 3-year contract with Alpine, by the way, which is a big contract. Like most drivers on the grid don't have a 2-year contract, let alone a 3-year contract. Like most of the drivers on the grid are out of contract either at the end of this year or at the end of 2026. Like Formula One teams do not lock themselves down to a driver for an extended period of time unless you are Max Verstappen, who's like signed up until 2028, or Charles Leclerc, who's similar. Oscar Piastri, for instance, just got an extension. But unless you are one of the top drivers in like a team that really wants to keep you, you don't get those kind of contracts often. Like I think Behrman and Ocon have got like 1-year contracts each. Gasly's only on like a 2-year contract at Alpine. It's like you don't get 3-year contracts unless they've got something in mind for you. So we will definitely see Colapinto at some point. Replacing who and when and how and where, I'm not sure yet. All of the talk is about him replacing Jack Doohan. Jack Doohan's done okay in the first couple of sessions, in my opinion. He's not done tragically badly in comparison to the rest of the field. You compare him to all of the other rookies that spun in Australia and all of the other bits and pieces. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I think lots of people want Colapinto back. He was a good character, wasn't he? He was entertaining to watch. He was exciting in terms of his driving style, and also was just seemed like a good guy. But I'm not sure that we will see Colapinto yet. Give it a few more weeks. Don't be placing any bets on Colapinto coming in within the next couple of races or so. Antonelli will be the next go. Started the season incredibly, hasn't he? Like if you're voting for Rookie of the Year, which is again a little bit early, but if you're voting for the Rookie of the Year so far, he's certainly Kimi Antonelli. He's been very, very quick indeed, and shown a few of the rookies that are maybe, I say, more experienced rookies. You look at Lawson really struggling, Red Bull in sort of a comparable situation. And then you've got the likes of, the problem is with Antonelli, he's in a top 4 team, and therefore you can't massively compare him to anyone other than Lawson. And that was already, Lawson's already got 10 Grand Prix experience now, 11 Grand Prix experience before this race. So you can't really compare him to any of the other ones because Doohan and Bortoletto and Behrman and Hadjar, they're all in sort of midfield teams, and therefore the expectation is a lot different. The understanding is a lot different, and I don't know. Rookie of the Year will be Ollie Behrman. Ollie Behrman's, I think, I shouldn't have said Rookie of the Year because now I have to justify that. And we're still way too early in the season. We're way too early in the season to make any kind of formal prediction on anything, to be honest. But it's not going to stop me. It's not going to stop me from having a go and enjoying a little bit of the ridiculousness that is Formula One. However, shall we get into qualifying? I'm starting to see radio messages are coming through. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll are on track at the end of the pit lane already. In fact, let's just go straight to the full detailed board, shall we? Because the radio messages are rolling in. But I think we can just go bang, straight there. We missed Danny Rick. There was didn't he put out a bit of a cryptic story or something where it was like a racing shoe in a water fountain? Something along those lines. I don't think there's a spot for Danny Rick. I know people are talking about the Cadillac possibilities. I think that's the only chance you might get to see a Danny Rick back on the grid, but apart from that, I'm not sure it's gonna play out, to be honest. Just feels like Danny Rick sort of had his time, did his time, came to a close. But qualifying is about to get underway. We're seeing drivers getting towards the end of the pit lane. 3 minutes to go is what Esteban Ocon and Carlos Sainz are being told on the radio already. Radio check for Liam Lawson. And getting set up and ready to go. As I say, drivers already making their way towards the end of the pit lane. Track temperature 40.2 degrees Celsius. Not too windy. Air temperature 26. Lovely warm day in China. And no rain as of yet. Track clear, ready to go. And we're just waiting for the cars to be formally given the green light in a couple of minutes' time. But as I say, drivers already making their way to the end of the pit lane, wanting to get out there first and foremost before everybody else gets to put their track tires on the track. That's what I want to say. God, can you tell the exhaustion is setting in? Right, let's zone in. We sit up. We pay attention. What time does it start? In literally 30 seconds. Why isn't chat coming on screen? Because YouTube has sent a notification saying that it will reset at midnight Pacific time, which is in about 1 minute. So hopefully we'll be able to get the chat working then. But when I loaded it up originally, that was the message that we got sort of half an hour ago. Strange, weird, never seen it before, but nothing I can do about it. So it will be on screen in a moment. Liam on the comeback. Oh, I hope so. $200. Just throwing it out there. Just $200. Wouldn't mind if I do. You know, if you want to send $200 my way. Currently trying to move house. So it's pretty expensive business. So if you want to support the stream and support me in any way, that'd be absolutely amazing. Getting closer and closer. I say getting closer and closer. I hope one day this might be able to earn enough to be a full-time gig, but we'll wait and see. You know, we're not on, you know, P1 with Matt and Tommy kind of numbers at this moment in time. We're getting closer. Getting closer. Lando Norris, tyre warmers are off. He's going to come out into the pit lane as well. And there goes the green light. The session has started. Lance Stroll, the first driver out on track. Oh. Hang on. I know. My stream is now delayed. Interesting. The Sky Sports stream is behind what you guys will see, so I might be a little bit behind what you see on the screen. Here we go. Let me just apply this super quick before we get into anything too interesting. So that's going to freeze for just a moment. Give it a moment. Give it a moment. It'll be okay. Don't worry about it. In fact, let me hide it so that people don't go, it's frozen. It's frozen. It is very warm for China, isn't it? Thank you, Ruben Lloyd, for subscribing to the channel. Appreciate that, mate. See if I can reset the chat before we get underway. If not, it might just be there. But there we go. I tried to reset it. We'll see what happens. It might happen. It might not. George Russell, Kimi Antonelli, and Max Verstappen, the only 3 drivers not out on track as it stands. And Carlos Sainz with Williams just starting his flying lap. Going to be interesting to see how that plays out because he's not had an amazing start to his time, has he? It's been a little bit of a to and fro. No, I don't think the chat is going to work today. That's annoying, isn't it? Oh, I'm going to give up. Carlos Sainz then coming down this back straight through turn 14. And a bit of a... Well, it's not going to be too bad of a lap from Carlos Sainz. Gets his banker in, I guess, for now. A 133 dead. Hulkenberg, Bortoletto into the 132s. Stroll and Alonso behind. Ollie Behrman comes across the line with a 132.7. So Ollie Behrman doing well. Oh, and there's an Alpine that is pointing in the wrong direction. Jack Doohan has gone a little bit astray. And 10-second penalty and 2 penalty points, of course, for the little bounce with Gabriel Bortoletto. Liam Lawson in the Red Bull. Let's see if this second qualifying session of the weekend can go a little bit better. Lando Norris is improving as well in the McLaren car. Gasly's just gone top of the leaderboards with a 132.3. We know that the lap times will start to tumble, though, especially because we were going quicker than this on the medium tyres yesterday in the sprint qualifying sessions. Only got to see the top 10 yesterday on the soft compound tyre, though. And that's the difference maker. Can we see some of those guys that maybe dropped out in Q1, Q2 yesterday bounce back because now they're on the soft compound tyre and they're just a little bit more comfortable on it and the car is just a little bit quicker using it. Alonso and Bortoletto pull into the pits as Charles Leclerc comes across the line. It's only 6th fastest for the Ferrari car. And Lewis Hamilton becomes the first driver to go into the 131s, looking for back-to-back pole positions in Shanghai. But Piastri puts 131.5 up on the board and goes quicker even than Hamilton. Hamilton then sandwiched by Piastri and Norris. Gasly 4th fastest as it stands. Still waiting for 8 drivers, to put times on the board. Alonso the slowest of them so far. Can see Antonelli just coming down the long back straight. George Russell also about to make his way around too. Max Verstappen there also. Few of the drivers abandoned some laps and peeled into the pits. So I feel like these cars just struggling a little bit. Oh, Lando Norris lap time deleted for a track limits infringement there. So Lando Norris drops out and Antonelli takes 3rd place in his stead. George Russell coming across the line, goes quicker than his teammate by a couple of tenths. Russell up into the podium places once more. Of course, a podium in Australia for George Russell. A little bit unexpected after Piastri's spin. But Russell up into the top 10. Up into the top 3. Definitely the top 10. Up into the top 3 as of now. Lando Norris will need to go again. Albon, Tsunoda, Verstappen, Hadjar, Lawson, and Doohan yet to set lap times. Doohan with a spin on his lap. So coming out once again. Hadjar just coming down this back straight. Verstappen is going quickly. Verstappen a 24.2 in the first sector, a 27.5 in the second sector from Verstappen. He's just making his way round the final couple of corners. Down the long straight he comes. 3 corners between him and finishing the lap. Looks a lot more comfortable in that Red Bull car than his teammate Liam Lawson, who has also not set a fast lap time as of yet. You can just see him coming around towards turn 11 there, towards the bottom right of the track map. Piastri still top of the timing sheets then. And Max Verstappen comes across the line to completely destroy that sentence I just said. And Verstappen goes to the top of the timing sheets, 131.4. Wasn't looking like an incredible lap from Verstappen. And then that final sector, very, very quick indeed. A 39.6 from Verstappen in that final sector. Ooh, here's a replay of Kimi Antonelli. Was there a little mistake? Ooh, almost sent himself into the gravel at turn 16, but just about kept it clean. The rear end just into the dust, but managed to capture the car. There's the track limits infringement from Lando Norris. It was at turn 9. Just all 4 wheels outside of the white line there for Lando Norris, and that lap time deleted. Here comes Lance Stroll to improve in a 132.1 from the Aston Martin car. Remember, we're just looking for the bottom 5, but it is intriguing to see how these cars adapt as the weekend progresses, to see who's managed to change things around since yesterday's qualifying and who's just a little bit quicker on these soft compound tyres, because qualifying on the mediums for the sprint qualifying does put some of the teams at a bit of a disadvantage. The mediums a little bit harder to work with than the softs when it comes to qualifying. Gabriel Bortoleto goes 7th fastest. He improves. Charles Leclerc is one to keep an eye on. He's down in 14th place right now. Make that 15th as Yuki Tsunoda also comes across the line to put in a 131.6. Isaac Hadjar behind him in 5th. Jack Doohan comes across the line to go for a 132.5. Drops Charles Leclerc and Ollie Behrman into that bottom 5. Norris, Albon and Lawson still yet to set a flying lap time. We know what Norris is capable of as long as he can keep it within the white lines. Alex Albon goes into the 131s, 131.9 from him. 6th place on the board for Alex Albon. Hülkenberg, Behrman and Leclerc now in the bottom 5. Lawson only 15th fastest on his lap. Still 7.5 minutes to go in this session, but you can start to see that the pressure is ramping up on a few of these drivers and needs to do something about that lap time, Liam Lawson, because Nico Hülkenberg is improving in the Stake Sauber car behind. Charles Leclerc also, you wouldn't imagine, will stay in that bottom 5 for long. Hülkenberg goes up to being the 7th fastest driver out on track. 6/10 off Max Verstappen's time, but not quite into the 131s. A 132 dead from Nico Hülkenberg. Here comes Lando Norris as well around the final couple of corners. He's just preparing himself for his flying lap. Esteban Ocon is going to make his way past. And then Norris can launch his way through, slingshot through turn 16 and start another flying lap. Just keep it within the white lines, please, Lando. Let's make it through and not do anything too silly. Behrman coming around to improve, currently 18th fastest. Let's see where he ends up. 7th fastest from Ollie Behrman. Very nice indeed. That drops Kimi Antonelli and Liam Lawson into that bottom 5. Antonelli and Lawson and Doohan all in their rookie seasons. Leclerc and Norris, you wouldn't imagine, will stay in that bottom 5 for long, especially as Lando Norris has just gone quickest of anybody through the first sector. 24.0 from Lando Norris. Not too bad at all. And Charles Leclerc is not having a nice time inside of that Ferrari. Isn't actually improving on his last lap time, Charles Leclerc. That is not nice reading if you are a Ferrari fan. Charles Leclerc, yeah, really struggling. Is going to improve just a touch, but it's only 10th fastest for Charles Leclerc, so still not absolutely scintillating from Charles Leclerc in any way. Let me put this... Let's do something with that space. Goodness me, Lando Norris getting all out of shape towards the end of the lap. Started off well with Lando Norris going purple in the first sector and then just sort of slowly drifted away. Improved in the middle sector, then a little mistake in the final sector puts him 7th fastest at the moment as Kimi Antonelli comes across the line to go 3rd fastest. Max Verstappen still the quickest man out on track and isn't actually out on track, is in the pit lane at the moment. Where did Lando Norris make a little error? Just went a little bit wide, did Lando Norris. Lando's not had a fun day inside of that McLaren car thus far. A really frustrating sprint race where he was just stuck behind Lance Stroll for the entirety up until right at the end. And then also a little bit out of shape there. Liam Lawson, no grip at all through turn 1, turn 2. And having to adjust constantly inside of that Red Bull. I do feel sorry for Liam Lawson at this point. He is just really struggling inside of that Red Bull. And it's not entirely his fault. It just feels like it is not quite set up to perform in the way that you'd hope it would be. Here we are then. Verstappen still top. Ocon, Gasly, Sainz, Lawson again, and Jack Doohan down in that bottom 5. Charles Leclerc only 13th fastest at the moment, though, and looked very, very uncomfortable inside of that Ferrari car. So still a lot to come here, and some drivers that could definitely drop out, are not expected to drop out. I think Charles Leclerc going again. So trying to just make sure that that Ferrari car does not drop out in this bottom 5. Does not want to be that driver, especially after Lewis Hamilton went on to win the sprint race this morning. And already drivers queuing up in the pit lane. Just seeing the RB of Isaac Hadjar. Also waiting, Carlos Sainz behind. Albon then waiting to be released. Need to hurry up a little bit. Only 2.5 minutes left to go in this first qualifying session. And it's about a 2-minute lap round when you're warming up those tyres. Especially with the traffic and bits and pieces around you. So Lawson might be... Oh no, there's Gasly coming out behind. It's going to be tight, though, for a few of these drivers that are only just making their way to the end of the pit lane. I think there's the 2 Hasses there I can see that are trying to come out just behind Gasly and Doohan. It's going to be tight for them. Ocon's going to need a pretty swift outlap here, and so is Ollie Behrman behind him. In fact, the Hasses coming out almost side by side. Behrman then deciding against it a little bit and slowing down a touch. But let's see if Ollie Behrman makes it to the checkered flag and also what kind of lap time he can get in. Ollie Behrman currently 9th fastest, but his teammate Esteban Ocon does need to improve. Gasly in front of those 2 as well also needs a better lap time. Lance Stroll under pressure. He's in 15th. Charles Leclerc is only 13th at this moment in time. Although Leclerc now coming down the back straight round turn 14. Lewis Hamilton about to come over the start-finish line. Bortoletto as well. Here does come Leclerc. Keep an eye on Charles just coming down past the start-finish line and towards turn 1 because he needs to improve and he did not look very comfortable at all. George Russell also being told to improve, and Russell's actually, yeah, sitting 10th at the moment on the timing sheets. Russell being told on the radio, we need this lap. A little bit of pressure, just as you need it. Piastri coming around turn 1. There is Russell following him. Hadjar just comes across the start-finish line, and Now we see a little bit of a train. Sainz, Albon, Antonelli, Lawson, Gasly, Doohan all backing up in that final sector around the final couple of corners. Here comes Antonelli then around turn 16. Gasly decides to jump in front of Liam Lawson, and Lawson has been caught a little bit cold there. Lawson is going to be behind Pierre Gasly in this. Is going to get across the start-finish line just in time, though. So is Jack Doohan. Esteban Ocon I don't think Ollie Behrman is going to make it. And I think Ollie Behrman is just going to have to deal with the fact that he didn't quite come across the line in time. That is, I knew they were cutting it fine. I didn't think Esteban Ocon was going to make it either, if I'm honest. But Ocon just about. Fernando Alonso improves his time to 6th fastest. Here comes the rest of the pack then. Not bad at all from Fernando Alonso. Yeah, Ollie Behrman did hit that checkered flag. There's confirmation of it. So Behrman not on a flying lap, but Esteban Ocon is. Ocon will be the last man across the line. Yuki Tsunoda just comes across the line to take the top spot in Q1. A 131.2 from Yuki Tsunoda. A couple attempts up on Max Verstappen. There comes George Russell. He improves to a 131.2 as well. Yuki Tsunoda on an absolute storm. Here comes Isaac Hadjar. And the RBs are looking so swift at this moment in time. The RB cars ramping it up. Lando Norris becomes the first driver to get into the 130s in this session. Carlos Sainz improves into 8th place. And now we're starting to look at the guys towards the back of the pack. Albon improves to 6th. Here comes Antonelli then. Antonelli currently 10th. Will he improve on his lap time? No, stays where he is. Gasly then comes across the line. It's only 15 fastest. Lawson comes across the line. Doesn't improve. And Gasly, Behrman, Doohan, Bortoleto, and Lawson, I think, are all going to be out here. And they are. Gasly, Behrman, Doohan, Bortoleto, and Liam Lawson is once again the slowest man out on track. Ouch. That is not good reading if you are a Liam Lawson or Red Bull fan. It is very, very frustrating indeed for Liam Lawson. Just still can't get to grips with this Red Bull car. Gasly will be a little bit disappointed. The Alpine just hasn't quite looked itself in these 2 qualifying sessions that we've seen. You know, compared to the end of last season where Gasly was really ramping up his form and looking quicker and quicker every single Grand Prix. Australia, though, managed to be at least a little bit positive. But there is Liam Lawson in the Red Bull car and once again is the slowest man out on track. It's 2 qualifying sessions in a row this weekend in China that Lawson just hasn't been able to find the pace, and he's not even really close, is he? He's a couple attempts off even being able to get into the top 15, let alone sort of bump wheels with the other top 4 teams. And Lawson now possibly coming to a close. His time at Red Bull will be short-lived if this doesn't change. Norris, though, fastest of them. Hadjar. Oh, it's just decided to freeze. I'll quickly reset it while we're between sessions. But unfortunately, for Liam Lawson, that is going to be it. He's joined by Gabriel Bortoleto, Jack Doohan, Ollie Behrman, who just missed the checkered flag. Didn't get a final lap, did Ollie Behrman? So that'll be frustrating. And Pierre Gasly in 16th place as well. Both of the Alpines out. Esteban Ocon makes it through for the Haas team. Nico Hülkenberg makes it through for the Stake Sauber team. And of course, Max Verstappen makes it through for the Red Bull team. But there will just be one of each of those cars moving into the second qualifying session. Just gonna change that. Boop. There you go. What do we think then? Hamilton, Alonso, Ocon, Hulkenberg, and Stroll, the 5 drivers that will need to improve. Lando Norris, once he finally kept it within the white lines, very, very good indeed. Hadjar and Tsunoda, the RB cars, absolutely coming to life on the soft compound tyres. Hadjar said yesterday, actually, that he was a little bit disappointed not to get through in sprint qualifying, into the top 10, I should say, sorry. And felt that he had a little bit more pace in the car. Showed that in the sprint race this morning. Really confident drive from Isaac Hadjar in the sprint race. Was making up ground and fighting battles, putting moves on people. And now, doing the same kind of thing here. He's come into it as Isaac Hadjar after a very, very disappointing Australian Grand Prix that, well, never really started. Now looks very, very content inside of that RB. Not really sure what's going on with the old multi-viewer here. And George Russell just telling his team that he was not happy with the decision that they made at the end of the session there to put a little bit too much pressure on him to deliver right at the end. Managed to get it through, though. 4th place. And does feel like it's very, very... And there was Liam Lawson just having to deal with Pierre Gasly making his way past. I did say that at the time, didn't I? Sort of, Pierre was very opportune there. Gasly deciding to jump in front of Doohan didn't actually help him out. In front of Lawson. Gasly didn't actually help him out in the end anyway. It is literally just fight for your life in that final sector there, isn't it? And Lawson left the tiniest gap. So Gasly decided that that was his opportunity to go. And both of them dropping out in that first qualifying session anyway. So hasn't helped too much in terms of that first session. I'm going to reset multi-viewer because for some reason it's just all not going. Right, and then it's just crashed fully. Good. Great timing there. Yeah, apologies. I'll just reset it. We'll get it back going again. Let's get it. Yeah, I think multi-viewer is just having a moment, not just for me, but for everyone. It looks like it's just crashed. Interesting. Interesting. Everything seems to not be going your way. Yeah, it's just one of them days, isn't it? Just doesn't want to... Nothing wants to work. Everything's crashing. Everything's got problems. Yeah, apologies, guys. I think multi-viewer has crashed. But I'll keep you up to date. We'll go back to the old school. Ah, there you go. Just had to reset it 4 or 5 times. There we go. There we go. Everything loaded back up. Let's pop that there. Radio. We'll see if that reloads. I'd be impressed. Investigations. Bada bing, bada boom. Sectors. It's going to take a while to get fully back going again, but give it a minute or so and we'll get underway. Here we are then. Luckily, we're back before any real lap times are going to get underway because Antonelli is just coming around the final couple of corners as we see it and is going to start his first flying lap and the first flying lap of anybody in this session. George Russell, his teammate, just behind. And the track map will load in 8 seconds, it's saying. So just give multi-viewer a moment. There we go. Five more drivers then is what we're going to lose in this second qualifying session. Going to be Hadjar and Tsunoda again at the top of the timing sheets to begin with. They'd be very happy to stay there. Of course, no lap times in as of yet, though. Antonelli, Russell going quicker than his teammate behind, though. Antonelli just coming down the back straight towards turn 14. We'll have picked up a little bit of a slipstream there behind Charles Leclerc and just making his way around 14 and 15 through 16. And let's see what kind of time Antonelli sets for the rest to beat in this one. It's a 131.5 from Antonelli, quicker than Esteban Ocon's 131.7. First couple of drivers across the line. Here comes George Russell, though. And Russell's going to put himself top of the timing sheets with a 131.3. Hadjar and Tsunoda are the two that we're keeping an eye on after that first qualifying. Because Hadjar looking quick. Just 5 tenths of a second off it is Hadjar, but more to come from him. Yuki Tsunoda, the next RB car to come around the final couple of corners. Lando Norris is going very quick through the first and second sectors. So Lando Norris purple in sector 1 and sector 2, as we can see on the timing sheets there. Tsunoda, though, coming around the final corner. What can Tsunoda do? Go second fastest. Does Yuki Tsunoda. Here comes Oscar Piastri. Piastri goes to the top of the timing sheets by a 10th. A 131.2 from Oscar Piastri. We know that Lando Norris, though, is absolutely rattling around behind him. Is he going to get into the 130s? He is. A 130.7 from Lando Norris. Quickest in every single sector compared to the rest of the field. And we are starting to see the drivers really shifting into their gears. Oh, we might be actually back with chat. Me and my science opium era. McLaren 1-2 at the moment. That's how it stands. Max Verstappen, though, is going to try and upset the apple cart. And only third fastest from Verstappen, 300ths off Oscar Piastri's time. Lando Norris's time, though, is insanely rapid. Liam Lawson just discussing his qualifying. Liam Lawson saying that he doesn't want to make excuses, saying it was a messy session, but you can just tell he's so disappointed in himself and just can't quite find that window of performance inside the car. Hopefully more to come from Liam Lawson, but he just can't find the feeling in the car by the looks of things. In Verstappen, I trust. Here we are then. So the first lap times are in as the drivers make their way around to the pits. Hamilton, our sprint winner, 7th fastest at the moment. Albon there, 8th. Charles Leclerc, 9th. They're the drivers that I would say are still under a bit of pressure to improve. Lance Stroll, though, is the first driver that definitely needs to improve. He's 11th fastest at the moment. Ocon behind in 12th. Hadjar 13th. Alonso 14th. Carlos Sainz in 15th place. As it stands, they would be the 5 drivers to miss out on Q3. But Liam Lawson there summarizes his qualifying by just saying it's not good enough. And it's difficult, isn't it? Because every time he's in the car, he just seems so frustrated with it. And then every time he gets out of the car, he sees Verstappen, Tsunoda, even Hadjar performing better than him in Red Bull power-trained cars. It's so difficult for Liam Lawson to find some positives at this moment in time, but I'm hoping he will bounce back. I was really excited to see what he could do in that Red Bull. I thought last year in the RB he did really well, but yeah, Josh, Yuki, does he deserve that top team drive? Does he deserve that opportunity at Red Bull? It was what a lot of people were calling for at the end of last year. Sympathy for Perez. I think he's just showing that, again, whoever you put in against Max Verstappen, or particularly in that Red Bull car, is always going to just struggle. Like, he's just a really hard car to drive. And Max Verstappen's sort of dominance is looking even more impressive, isn't it? Like, every time you put somebody else in there and they don't perform, it just goes to show how good Max Verstappen is at finding that performance inside of a car that is pretty horrible to drive. And if anything, just goes to show, again, Max Verstappen doing an incredible job, whilst also his teammates struggling to find the pace. Carmeli, hello. First words in the chat. How's it going? Think Yuki should get a senior team. That's the thing. Yuki Tsunoda is in a really weird contract situation at the moment. The RB team saying that they do sort of want to get rid of him. That was sort of the way that it was phrased going into the season. He's out of contract at the end of this year. So there might be an opportunity for Tsunoda to escape away from RB, but where does he go? You know, is there a seat available for him? A lot of the teams got their business done last year with 2026 already in mind. So Tsunoda's in a really awkward spot where, again, he's started the season on fire, and again, looks like he should get a seat somewhere a little bit better than the second Red Bull team, but there isn't really a spot open up to him. You know, you go up and down the grid. Is he going to get in at McLaren? No. Ferrari? No. Mercedes? No. Red Bull don't seem to want him. Aston Martin, it's Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso, both of which have contracts into next year. Will they pull the trigger and do it there? Probably not. RB is obviously the team he wants to leave. Alpine have got 3 strong drivers. They've got Gasly, Colapinto, and Doohan, you know, to choose from already. Will they want to add Tsunoda into that mix? Probably not. Stake Sauber have already got their driver set up. They've got Gabriel Bortoleto for the future. They've got their German driver for Audi who are coming in. Like, Tsunoda is running out of options pretty quickly. Williams got Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon. Will they want to swap either of those for a Yuki Tsunoda? Probably not. Haas also, you know, got their drivers sorted. They brought in their rookie and Ollie Behrman for the future. They've got him for Ferrari, so they won't get rid of Ollie Behrman. Esteban Ocon also very consistent midfield driver. Don't think they'll get rid of him. There's just nowhere for Yuki Tsunoda to go, is the problem. But there we are. Zach Brown thinks Max will join Merck. Thoughts on this? It's kind of done to death. I don't think so. Where does he go? Does he replace George Russell, right? That would be very, very mean on George Russell. Hasn't done anything too wrong, you would say, George Russell this season. And yeah, also then Russell would be in the same spot. Where on earth would George Russell end up? There's not many spots on the grid. But let's get into these final lap times then, as a little bit of a talk about the driver market. Now into these final laps, George Russell is going to come across the line fairly soon. Let's see what kind of lap time he's got inside of the Mercedes car. Can he improve? No. Stays where he is, does George Russell, and a slightly slower lap after a little bit of a mixed final sector. Lewis Hamilton has just gone quickest of anybody through the middle sector, but was quite far down on Norris's time through the first sector anyway. So Lewis Hamilton then coming down towards turn 14. Was on pole position, of course, for the sprint race this morning. Managed to turn that into his first sprint victory since 2021. His first sprint victory in Ferrari red. I'm sure he'd love to get his first full pole position and first full win on the same weekend. Lewis Hamilton then across the line. It's sixth fastest again, that final sector. A little bit off for Lewis Hamilton, as it was for George Russell. That final sector seeming to be a little bit tricky for these drivers now. Maybe it's the conditions have changed just slightly, but everyone's struggling through turn 14 and then turn 16. Leclerc again, slowest through the final sector. Sixth fastest only. Ocon and Hadjar needing to improve if they want to get themselves into the top 10. Here comes Ocon. Ocon up into the top 10, but it's only 10th spot. And it is very, very tight between Antonelli backwards. Isaac Hadjar comes across the line. And Isaac Hadjar goes fourth fastest. Puts his teammate Yuki Tsunoda down to sixth. Here comes Kimi Antonelli. Currently ninth fastest and only a few hundredths ahead of Esteban Ocon's time, as Ocon now drops into that bottom five once again. Antonelli looking to improve. Fernando Alonso has gone moderately slow through the middle sector, unfortunately for the Spaniard. Carlos Sainz is also rattling around behind. Antonelli stays ninth. So that is going to be on the bubble. Here comes Fernando Alonso. Can he improve? Yes, but only up into 13th spot. So Alonso and Stroll are both going to be out at this point in the weekend. Carlos Sainz does improve, but can't go any better than 15th fastest overall. And it looks like Antonelli will just about hang on for that place. Alex Albon, the final man into the top 10. Nico Hülkenberg comes across the line, doesn't improve. We already saw Ocon not quite able to do it. And that is going to be the five drivers then that are out in this second qualifying session. Ocon, Hülkenberg, Alonso, Stroll and Sainz will start 11th through 15th for tomorrow's Chinese Grand Prix. They join Gasly, Behrman, Doohan, Bortoleto and Lawson as the drivers that will not take part in the final qualifying session. Carlos Sainz really unhappy in that Williams car this weekend, and it's a shame, isn't it? Qualified really well in Australia, did Carlos Sainz, but then we didn't get to see the race pace. Now has a tough weekend in Shanghai, not quite able to get to grips with the Williams car in this setting. But both of the RB cars making their way through. Hadjar and Tsunoda, fourth and fifth fastest there. And they're looking like a top four team at this point. The RBs in and amongst it with the McLarens, the Red Bulls, the Ferraris of these worlds. You know, we talk about the top four kind of separating themselves out from the rest last year, and that was definitely the case. We had 8 drivers that were miles ahead of the rest. And now instead we've got 2 RBs joining the pack. Maybe only for this weekend only. Although Yuki Tsunoda did qualify very well in Australia also. Got a little bit done on the strategy, did Yuki Tsunoda. Great stream. First comment. Yuki and Hadjar are being extremely impressive. Couldn't agree more. Outqualified both of the Ferraris and both of the Mercedes there. Obviously not the final qualifying session. Still an opportunity for those guys to improve. But as times go, not a bad time at all to be a fan of the RB setup. He says, oh, I just need to stretch. As a Ferrari Williams fan, my day is ruined. It's all right. You got 3 of your 4 drivers through. It's only Carlos Sainz that's dropped off. There we go. You never know when it comes to these qualifying sessions. It can suddenly all change. And Isaac Hadjar and Yuki Tsunoda just showing that the sprint qualifying and the actual qualifying can be very different. Hadjar was on an absolute steamroller this morning, though. Was making moves left, right, and centre, and now showing why he was able to do that. The pace of the RB is clearly there in Shanghai in these warmer conditions, especially. Let's get everything set up for the final qualifying session then. If I could be as polite as to ask, if you are new to the channel, if you could hit that subscribe button, that'd be absolutely amazing. Completely free. You can change your mind later on down the line, but it does really help out the channel. Trying to get to 120,000 subscribers, maybe even 100 and let's say 150 by the end of the year. Would that be a little bit too out there? Maybe, just maybe. But could hit that subscribe button, that'd be amazing. And if you could hit the like button on the stream as well. We're going to try and set the standard for some qualifying streams throughout this year. We haven't really got a benchmark as of yet because Australia was a little bit of a weird time. So if you could hit that like button, that'd be absolutely fantastic. Maybe even, you know, watch a video in the background. Head down to the comment section. The description section. There's a few videos in there. Maybe just open one in the background, you know, have it up. Here we go. If I subscribe, will I griddy? Not right this moment, but maybe. Maybe in the future. Hadjar on the radio. And frustrated. He thinks he could have got more out of the car. Goodness me. That is a man who has got some confidence in the car underneath him, isn't it? Isaac Hadjar comes into the pits. He's out-qualified his teammate. He's into Q3. He's the 4th fastest man out on track. And he says to himself, nah, there was more time there. More to find. He was just a little bit out of shape through turn 1, turn 2, looking at this replay. But even so, Isaac, just be happy. Just be happy. London is red. 38K. Yeah, last season we grew massively. Don't know what it is. We've hit the YouTube algorithm, maybe. Not sure what it is. YouTube has decided that now is the time for the channel to get some ground. Alex looking like the first driver. Well, Williams, they said at the beginning of the season they wouldn't really have a number 1, number 2. They just wanted a cooperative setup where both drivers could thrive and both drivers could continue to show their best. But it's not looking great from Carlos Sainz this weekend. But maybe it is just the Shanghai track is a tough one. It's one that's awkward to get the hang of. You know, turn 1, 2, and 3 are very, very windy and twisty, and a lot of people don't like them. And then also, if you get anything wrong through turn 9, 10, 11, 12, just costs you so much time down that really long back straight. So it's kind of hard. If Max leaves Red Bull, the team will be bottom for years. Does make you wonder, isn't it? If you swapped out Max Verstappen for even just another middling driver, in the nicest way possible, if you swapped out Max Verstappen for, say, Esteban Ocon, how far adrift would they be? Max destroying F1 careers since 2016. Yeah, he's put the sword to a few Red Bull careers. I mean, I would say that Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon have kind of bounced back more than well enough. I think Gasly and Albon are now seen as some of the best drivers on the grid. And I think Christian Horner did say something about this coming into this weekend. He was like, look, we gave the drivers an opportunity where other cars didn't. And he's quite right. We wouldn't have heard of Gasly or Albon in the way that we have if they wouldn't have been given that chance by Red Bull. Red Bull did fund their Formula 2s and GP3s and various other series. So they do bring the talent through. It's just they then offload that talent to other teams. And I think hindsight is a wonderful thing, isn't it? When they got rid of Carlos Sainz, they didn't need him. They had Max Verstappen, they had Daniel Ricciardo. They were sort of looking at building into younger drivers in that second team. And Carlos Sainz left because he saw that Max Verstappen was going to get that Red Bull seat ahead of him. Same with Alex Albon. Alex Albon got that opportunity. Red Bull thought, we can maybe do better here. Put him back into the mix. They had the opportunity to sign Sergio Perez. And for Perez, it was an opportunity to stay in the sport. But, hindsight now, would you take Sergio Perez now or Alex Albon? Alex Albon. Would you take Sergio Perez now or Carlos Sainz? Carlos Sainz, like, it's very tricky to get those things right at the time. And tough to sort of say Red Bull have made bad decisions. In hindsight, they have. Would they have done better? It's depends on your opinion on sort of Christian Horner, Helmut Marko. I think the biggest mistake that they made was Nick de Vries. I think if they hadn't have made the Nick de Vries error, then they'd be in a much stronger position now. I mean, that was a real kicker. Bringing in Nick de Vries, then swapping it for Daniel Ricciardo, just didn't need to happen. Oh, thank you, Rohan, for the super chat. 20 currency I am not aware of. But yes, thank you so much, Rohan. Really do appreciate that. There's another way of supporting the channel. If you want to support the channel, you can chuck in a little super chat. Maybe become a member. But thank you for all of you that are subscribing to the channel as well. If Lawson continues like this, Red Bull will have no option but to give Yuki that seat. You're not wrong. It's whether they... What do they do with Lawson then? Is it a straight swap? Do they put Lawson back in the RB? Then what happens, right, if they do that swap, Yuki comes into the Red Bull and then Yuki starts qualifying 20th and Liam Lawson then now that he's back in the RB starts to perform again because he was pretty good last season, was Liam Lawson in that RB car. So... Is the sprint over? The sprint was over a long time ago. This is qualifying, my friend, and you've just joined us for the final part of it. We're about to see the first set of flying laps from the drivers in Q3. Just over 9 minutes left to go in the session. Max Verstappen is going to come around and be the first driver to set a flying lap time. The two Mercedes cars just behind, and Antonelli and Russell. Hadjar and Tsunoda also in the mix for the top 10. It's a little bit of a scrap and really open in terms of who's going to get pole position, in my opinion here. Don't think you can take away from Norris. Norris probably the favourite to get a pole position, but Verstappen's been quick. Hamilton took pole position in the sprint. Leclerc, of course, is incredible on a fast lap when he can get that Ferrari car underneath him. Hasn't looked incredibly comfortable over the session so far. Hadjar and Tsunoda in the mix for the RBs, thinking that they've got some time in the bank from Q2. Here does come Isaac Hadjar. It's 5/10 adrift of Verstappen, a 1:31.1. Quicker than Antonelli and Russell, though. Antonelli, I think, was on... Oh, no, that must have been a flying lap. Russell was on a slow lap. Slots in. Yuki Tsunoda slots in behind Isaac Hadjar, though. So Isaac Hadjar on an absolute tear right now. Piastri comes across the line, goes quickest. Yes, Come on, Piastri. That's what we like to see. A 130.7 displaces Max Verstappen. Alex Albon has gone 7th fastest. Hamilton then comes across the line to go 3rd fastest ahead of the 2 RB cars. So currently Piastri, Verstappen, Hamilton, the front 3 that we had for the sprint this morning in a slightly different order. Charles Leclerc comes across the line, only 4th fastest for him. Lando Norris is not going ridiculously quick. No purple sectors from him and is a 10th adrift of his teammate. It was purple through the final sector was Norris, but looked to be a little bit off his teammate throughout and is just a 10th slower, or under a 10th slower than Oscar Piastri. So it is a 1-2 for the McLaren cars as we go into the second phase of this qualifying session. George Russell, the only driver yet to set a representative lap time, and is just coming around the final couple of corners is George Russell. So here he comes across the start-finish line, and it's 5th fastest, splitting the Ferraris. Come on, McLaren. That's lovely to see. Maybe just a red flag. Someone spin. Someone out, you know? Let's end the session there. Let's lock that in, shall we? Let's lock that in right this moment in time. Piastri first, Norris in 2nd, Verstappen in 3rd place just behind, Hamilton 4th, Russell 5th, Leclerc 6th, the 2 RBs, Hadjar just in front, and Antonelli and Albon rounding out the top 10. This season is going to be beef with Hamilton and Verstappen, do you think? I don't know. Can't see there being any reason for that, to be honest. Not at this point, anyway. Doesn't look like either of those two is absolutely guaranteed to be in a title battle. Oscar Piastri, who's that middle sector, actually, looking at the sector times. That middle sector where Piastri was just that bit quicker than Lando Norris, nearly a couple of attempts quicker, actually, than Lando Norris through the middle sector. So even though Norris was then better in the final sector, Piastri had enough in the bank to be able to get it done. Phase 2 will indeed be interesting. Looking into it. Got 1,500 people watching a qualifying session. Goodness me. They're normally race numbers. Thank you guys all for joining me. Massively appreciate your time. 5 minutes left on the clock. Ticks down here in Shanghai. We will, of course, be live again if you want to join us for the full Grand Prix tomorrow. It will look almost identical to this. It will be me having a chat with you guys as we go through the entire Chinese Grand Prix. If you want to check out some of the videos on the channel, they're all linked in the description down below. A few different videos that I've done building up to the 2025 season. I think the best one to have a look at is probably the biggest problem that each team has coming into this year. A few of them have been able to address some of those issues already. A few teams we're waiting to see what they can do. But I'd love to know your thoughts and feelings on that video and how it goes. How do you read the sector timings on Multiviewer? They're right next to, it says, so it's the best lap, then the leader, like how far away they are from the best lap, and then the sector 1, sector 2, sector 3, right there. Just in the 3. Oh! And I think that might be a unsafe release from Max Verstappen there. He gets launched out of the garage and almost collects the Racing Bulls. A little bit awkward from Max Verstappen there, but he'll shake it off. Isaac Hadjar disappears into the distance. He's okay. And Max Verstappen follows him out. So Albon is going to be the first driver to set his final flying lap time. I know it was the Racing Bull coming out in front of Verstappen, and Verstappen had to veer out of the way. I thought it was Verstappen that released into them, but no. Yeah, that was not the right time to release Isaac Hadjar there, but he's out. He's there. It was okay. Let's not give him a penalty. He's doing really well. Let's support the rookies. And here we go. Anyhow, Albon coming down the back straight, Antonelli around the final couple of corners. So it's going to be Albon, Antonelli, Hadjar, Verstappen trying to overtake Isaac Hadjar right now. It's a very Max Verstappen move, isn't it? He was released in front of you. It wasn't Isaac Hadjar's fault, but Max Verstappen is making him very aware that he is going to take third spot in this order of the running. So Verstappen overtakes Hadjar and gets himself third in the queue. Albon starts his final flying lap. Hadjar's then going to be behind. Norris, Hamilton, and Piastri. Then behind that, Charles Leclerc and George Russell is going to be the final man across the start-finish line. So keep your eyes peeled for George Russell's lap times to end the session. But Albon and Antonelli flying right now. Here comes Max Verstappen then down towards turn 1 on this final flying lap. Can he nab pole position here in China? Or will it be Isaac Hadjar just behind? Lando Norris is going to start his final flying lap of the session. Hamilton just giving Norris a little bit of space around turn 16. And Piastri then coming around the final sector as well. Let's have a little look at Max Verstappen's sector times. He's just coming through turn 6 now, and he is quick through that first sector is Max Verstappen. He's 300ths up on Oscar Piastri's lap time so far. Is a purple sector for Max Verstappen. Albon and Antonelli improving, but not to the extent that Max Verstappen is. Let's keep an eye on Max Verstappen's second sector. Lando Norris's first sector is a little slower than Max Verstappen's, but it's a middle sector to forget for Max Verstappen. Didn't even improve on his last middle sector lap time, so a lot to do in the final sector if Max Verstappen does want to put himself on provisional pole. Just coming down towards turn 14. George Russell has just come across the start-finish line, and he'll be the last man across the start-finish straight. Alex Albon did improve, but not too much. Antonelli goes 7th fastest. Here comes Max Verstappen then round the final couple of corners. As I say, a really solid first sector. An interesting middle sector, but not too great. Gets a little bit out of shape through turn 16 as well, does Verstappen, and doesn't improve. Stays 3rd fastest. And Verstappen will continue. Isaac Hadjar gets himself up in front of Kimi Antonelli into 7th spot on the grid. Here comes Lando Norris then. Lando Norris didn't improve in the middle sector, and Lando Norris peels into the pits. Was not happy at all with that lap. Lewis Hamilton also didn't improve through the middle sector. And Hamilton, can he improve? No, Hamilton stays 4th. It's very similar to the sprint qualifying, actually, in that a lot of teams and a lot of drivers not improving on their final laps, and Oscar Piastri does improve and stays on pole position. Piastri goes quicker than he did before. I think he was the only driver in that top 5 to improve. Yuki Tsunoda still running behind Charles Leclerc. Let's see what Leclerc is up to. Leclerc through the middle sector didn't improve again. Russell has actually improved through the first and second sectors. So Russell looking like he might be able to get in front of Lewis Hamilton, possibly. Needs to find 0.05 of a second compared to his last lap time. He's improved in both sectors. Here comes George Russell to finish up qualifying for the day. And can he get onto the 4th row? Oh, he does even better than that. Splits the McLarens and the Mercedes car. Goes into 2nd spot. That is a stunning final sector from George Russell as well to put himself onto the front row of the grid alongside Oscar Piastri. 2nd row of the grid will be Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. Then behind that, we've got the 2 Ferraris lining up side by side. Hamilton just ahead of Charles Leclerc on the 3rd row of the grid. Hadjar and Antonelli. Hadjar with a stunning qualifying session there. 7th fastest. Quicker than a Mercedes. Quicker than his teammate. Can't really say much more. Yuki Tsunoda and Alex Albon will round out the point scoring places at the beginning of tomorrow's Grand Prix. Of course, a little reminder, Esteban Ocon, Nico Hülkenberg, Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll, as well as Carlos Sainz, will be starting 11th through 15th after dropping out in Q2. And the drivers that dropped out in Q1, Pierre Gasly, Ollie Behrman, Jack Doohan, Gabriel Bortoleto, and Liam Lawson will be starting 16th down to 20th. Liam Lawson at the back of the pack once again. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Massively appreciate it. Oscar Piastri takes pole position once more. And George Russell slots in just behind in the Mercedes. That is a stunning lap from George Russell as well. But thank you guys for joining. Massively appreciate it. Enjoy if you could hit that like button, the subscribe button, maybe on your way out. Check out one of the videos in the description. You know, give it a little like. Give that a little watch. Just see what you think. And I will see you tomorrow for another hectic session here in China. Oscar Piastri takes pole. Isaac Hadjar, the man to watch. Just best of the rest by a mile. Liam Lawson down in 20th place once again.